mentors. You influence those ahead of you. Several years ago, I went to one of the federal universities to do an external exam. And then they were trying to get a new VC. I had this, my boss, when I mean my boss, is the top people in my profession in medicine. And then he looked at me and said, Gregory, you must apply for this job. We're going to force it on you. Well, it was in an environment that everybody wanted me to apply, not Ife. And I told the man, I said, I wouldn't do that. I can't do it. I said, not that I cannot be a VC, but I said the problem about the place you want me to be a VC is that the way they think is different from the way I think. And if I have a 5-year term, I will spend first 2 years developing a synchrony in our thought system. And that in many cases, leaders are produced from the stuff of the community they are. So that's why I have the area boys are more important than the doctor's advice. That's why you hear the talk is more important than taking advice from somebody who is wise. And so when you want to do leadership, the first one is, it's not just your being qualified. The next question you are going to be, do you understand the constituency? And if you understand it, can you appropriate your leadership power within that constituency? And that happened to 3 other universities, or 4, that I've been called to. One of them, the proprietors, even asked me directly. And I told him the same thing, that I would rather come there and help the thinking culture. There are several types of some of the things we do in our institutions, autocratic, monarchical, and so on, all kinds of leadership. I won't talk about that. But I'm more inclined towards the servant leadership as the best. But as Daniel Goldman said, sometimes you have to adapt different kinds of leadership to the situation around you. So you cannot say I'm just a servant leadership. Sometimes you may have to go autocratic. Other times you have to be democratic. And other times you have to be monarchical. So, but the settings should be more of servant leadership. Now, I wrote this as the 7 factors that make great leaders. I'm not going to be able to deal with all these factors. I'm just talking on 2. Then after talking on those 2, I will now move on and talk about how those leaders are formed. Meaning that because in this place, there are people who are already formed. I can see retired professors, great deans, and also I can also see the young people who are just starting. So I'm going to think about them. Let's look at those things here. No, please. Now, the first one is clarity, understanding the context. As I said before, don't take any leadership position till you understand the context on which this leadership is formed. The constitution, the framework. Don't say because you are good, you should be a leader. I want to be a governor because I'm very good. I don't do that. Understand the context. Understand what it means. For example, if I'm going to lead in Nigeria, I've been in many leadership positions that have people from all kinds of cultures, all kinds of tribes, all kinds of societies. I must understand the context and the way they think. Then the second thing is, the number one thing for me, for leadership, is character and integrity. It's the bedrock. If you don't have it, don't dare lead. Don't dare lead. And I can tell you that even among the thugs, integrity is important. I'll explain to you more. Without integrity, nothing stands. Then the third one is the compelling vision. And I want to say here that when I mean by the compelling vision, I don't mean the leader's vision. As a matter of fact, the leader is not the originator of the vision. He may have been inspired by the vision and thought through. The leader doesn't impose his vision on the people. A great leader wants to understand the needs of the people and take those people to where they should be. So vision to a leader is bidirectional, is a common cause. He owns the vision. In a sense, he keeps the vision in thrust for those he's leading. And he must be very clear that this is our vision. It's not my vision. Many times I heard politicians say, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to take this for you. The question, who is the person to tell me what he wants, what I want? Anytime from now, especially in certain countries of the world like Nigeria, when leaders come, they build buildings, they do some fantastic things, and people call that leadership. But is that what we need? Is that what we want? So vision is a common cause. Then you now find out the competence to do. You see, to me, I don't ask questions on which party. When you are not a person of character, you are not a real go area for me. No matter how much you earn, no matter how much you owe, no go area for me. I don't even discuss it. I don't say, well, God is going to use you no matter, I won't do it. As far as I'm concerned, you are persona non grata. If you don't have a common, compelling vision, then you don't. If you want to impose what you think on me, then you are not. The most especially if you are not competent. A leader must be competent in the technicalities of leadership. He must be competent in the emotional content of leadership. He must be competent in the physical health of leadership. He must also be competent in understanding the Constitution and the underground, unwritten constitution of the people. Let me give you a simple example. When we came to this meeting, and I saw them singing choruses, board meetings in this country, we start with prayer, the Christian prayer, then we end up with the Muslim prayer. And in some places they say, no prayer, let's read the first stanza of the national anthem. When I'm in the West African meetings, they say, let us all have a minute meditation. No prayer. So, both for the Christian, the Muslim, the animist, the non-anything can meditate. Then, courage to act. A leader must have the courage to make decisions and stand by those decisions. And that's where many leaders fail. I tell people, why, whenever you come and sit down in a leadership position and begin to complain that there's not enough money, oil price has increased, or somewhere in Abuja they're not giving me, then you are not qualified to lead. Leaders know the problem. We appoint leaders because we want them to fix the problem, not to accentuate it. Leaders are not journalists. Leaders are not historians. Leaders are not observers. Leaders are fixers. So if you cannot own the problem and find solutions to the problem, why lead? Now when we came to this church, to this city, there was no church as big as this or beautiful like this. Maybe some Anglican church, who knows? And I said to myself, if we are going to have a church, I could as well complain. We are all poor. We are all lecturers. We are all students. Then I have lost my capacity to lead. Because God called me to lead because He wanted me to fix the problem. That's it. A leader is one of other people, but is distinguished because he's extraordinary. Then, a leader must communicate. He must be able to encourage the human soul. Things are not around. They said encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. Recently, one of my colleagues' son was in the hospital. We just finished our exam, and I told my colleague, I want to go to the pediatric ward to see your son. At first he was saying, yes, that's important because let's go. Then I saw the head of department coming. Now this is a very qualified pediatrician, professor. The professor wasn't even asking, he didn't start by asking, did you give this? I could see the man showing empathy for that little child. And they say, look, give everything you like, and when you need me, come in. That is a leader. That is a leader. You could as well come and say, Mother, you are careless. When did this diarrhea happen? No. When I saw him by the bedside and his approach, I said, that's leadership. And then immediately I saw it, I said, I wasn't even necessary, because I felt somewhere here we have a leader who is encouraging the human soul. All these things put together will lead to transformational change. It's not exhaustive. Believe me, it's not exhaustive. But they are bedrock on which we stand. Then leadership is not a reward. It's not that, look, reward me for being kind to you. It's not a reward. Leadership is not a right. It's a responsibility. It's not a reaction, but a response. Because when you were dean that time, you oppressed me. And so I'm going to be dean next time. I'm going to deal with you. No, that's not it. Leadership is not a rank. Although leaders have rank. Some time ago, I was sitting down somewhere in church, and somebody said, come and sit in front. That's your position. I said, anywhere the leader sits, that's where the power is. I don't have to be in front. You know, I don't have to put on a big garment so that you know I'm a leader. Leadership is not a title. All these degrees we can may just be degrees. I mean, you may be a technical expert in making bread, or you may have a PhD in bread mixing. But as far as making stew, you are still kindergarten. So don't use your ability to make bread to bamboozle me. So leader is not an entitlement. And it's usually not ego-driven. When a man who has ego, he wants to push it, he's going to destroy the whole network. Now, one of the great books I've read was a man called Jim Collins, who wrote a book From Good to Great. Now, I've happened to listen to Jim Collins live in Chicago. And this book is very great. And one thing great about this book was this. In his research of several companies who were not just good but great, he said the great companies ask the question, they don't ask the question worth, they ask the question who. Now, for a long time, all leadership discussion in the world has been based on mission, vision, where are you going? But he said the great companies, they don't even ask the question only of what or where we are going, but who. And so they raised it and said it is the man as important as the mission. Now, if you go to the next slide, he said the level 5 leaders, they start by asking the question, who? Who is the person who will lead? Believe it or not, how many of you don't know Nigerian problems? I've never met anyone who does not know Nigerian problems. I mean, when my children were fairly young, I think they were maybe 3 or so, I asked them, then NEPA was in existence. I said, what do NEPA do? They said they take light. So a 3-year-old boy knew the problem of NEPA, that they don't supply light, but they take light. I don't agree with him, and I don't think NEPA helps us with light. Who doesn't know the problem? Somebody came here, we invited the man from South Africa. He said on his way from Lagos, by the time he got to Ife, he has got PhD. I said, what is your... He said, he has got PhD. He said, why South Africa? I said, what is it? He said, pothole dodging. Pothole dodging. That's his PhD. So everybody knows the problem. So we don't want to talk about the leader and his problem. We want to see whether the leader, who is the person? Ask the who first before the what. Before we used to say, what is the what? Who? Don't tell me the problem. Tell me who is the person. Let's go on. Let's go on, please. Now, the level 5 leader take the who decision first, and then the what decides decision later. To get the right people in the boss, not only the head, the right people in the boss, and the right seats, and the wrong people in the boss. Level 5 leaders blend humility with professional will. Now, this is what the Bible also said in Ezekiel, that he sought for a man. Let's go on. And Ecclesiastic, the wise Solomon says, I saw one man in 1,000, but he did not see a woman. I don't know. He has had more experience with women than myself. All right, go on. Now, what are the fundamentals of leadership? Let's go on. Integrity and character is what I mentioned first. And Barrister has talked about it. I won't go into detail, but I just mentioned a few things. Let's go on. Now, all right, let's go on. Everything stands and falls on character. Move on. Now, character simply means engraved mark. Your character is something that's engraved in your mind. Someone said, sow a thought, you reap words. Sow a words, you live a habit. Sow a habit, you live a lifestyle. Sow a lifestyle, you live a destiny. So, in a sense, a character is who you are, embedded. And so, a character is formed by the decisions you make. And so, if you call a leader, every decision is going to make is going to determine on his character. You know, if a man who takes booze builds a house, he will have a winery. If the man who does not take booze build a house, he will have a garden. You get what I mean? If a man who is a character and is a president and he goes for conferences, he will say, please supply us girls. One famous governor in this country, and I was told by certain people who knew him, that the man landed in Singapore. This is the true thing. The first thing he asked is, where are the girls? They should tell him, where are the girls? The governor went to Singapore, and the first question he asked, where are the girls? Let's go on, please. So, character involves consistency, candor, palpable humility, and brutal honesty. You can't be a leader if you shift position because you want a position. You can't be a leader if there is nothing truth and constant about you. Do you speak the truth? Once you don't speak the truth, what is your business in leading? Do you do what you say you will do? Do you fear God and respect man? Now, several years ago, Jethro, who wasn't even, I don't think he was an Israelite. I don't think he was a godly man in that sense. He gave an advice. He said, choose leaders that are God-fearing and can be trusted and who cannot be bribed. To me, this is basic. Let's go. 90%, and this is a research that has been done somewhere, has found out that all leadership failures are character failures. Competence is there, but character is there. Now, Dwight Eisenhower, a wartime American president, said, the supreme quality of leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible. Whether it is on a section gang, a football field, in an army, or in an office. Truman said, in reading the lives of great men, I have found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline with all of them came first. You see, as a pastor of this church, I work hard to be physically fit. I work hard to lose weight. I work hard because the first thing is that I can't model being a Christian, and yet a certain part of the Bible I don't obey. So you know what I mean? I want to obey everything that are obvious and not obvious. Let's go. Samuel Miles told us that the greatest motive powers in the world is our character. Let's go. Now, integrity is continuity between the two parts of us. It is consistency in what we say and what we do. And that's found from a book by the 15 Characteristics of Effective Pastor. Let me explain to you. Now, integrity is like an iceberg. The top of the iceberg is your activity, the things you do. No one can tell from the things you do who you are. Your performance, your task. But that is visible 10% of your integrity. But then there is below the iceberg, which occupies 90%, what they call the motive behind your motive. And that is the identity, who you are. Your character, your innermost being. Yes, let's go on. Let's go on. So, in a sense, integrity can be behavioral integrity. Your identity is reflection of your behavior. Then the other one can be performance integrity. The way your actions affect other people. Then there is the internal integrity, which is integrity of your inner life. Who you are. The way you think. You may never steal, but if you think of stealing, that's integrity. You may never lie physically, but if you are obsessed with lying, you may never fornicate or adulterous. If you are every time soaked in adultery, you lack internal integrity. Then there is the progressive integrity. Now this is coined by me, that we don't all come to this world perfect. The best of us are no saints. We have our pitfalls. We have periods of ignorance, periods of insubordination. So, but you are making efforts every day by growth, discipline, and self-assessment. So, behavioral integrity means that your natural behavior reflects what your innermost being is. Let's go on. Your performance integrity means in your relationship to others, whatsoever is inside you. You don't bow to somebody, greet somebody, but everybody knows that you don't even like them. You are happy with somebody, you look happy with somebody, and next day you kill him. Then internal integrity is still the same. Your innermost being reflecting on you. Let's move. Now, let's go on to the next one. Now, in all this, integrity doesn't always mean good. I mean, I can be a bad man, but as long as what I say inside me is what I'm outside me. So integrity rather is continuity. It means you are whole. You can see some people are gangsters. They don't lie. They don't steal. Because that's what they believe in. But they're not good people. They can murder. And if you read the Bible very closely, you know that there was a man who wanted to do something evil, and he said, in the integrity of my heart, I did this. But, having said that, let's go on. There are not principles that doesn't change. We want those who lead us to be transparent. We want those who lead us to be brutally honest. We want those who lead us to be loyal. We want those who lead us to be faithful. These are principles that cut across board, independent of what religion you are. Now, when they looked at honesty through the world and the reported case of honesty, this statistic was taken several years ago, and they found out that more honesty was found in Germany. UK comes close to 1/3. But when you come towards the latter part, you see Italy, Colombia, China, Morocco, and Tanzania. Well, these statistics may not be exact, but it's so that even in certain cultures, when people can shortchange others and are encouraged, people get dishonest. And we must not get used to dishonesty as the rule of life. We must never. I know somebody was talking sometimes, he did all kinds of things and he became a leader. No, let's not emulate evil things. Let's not say evil, despite the power you have, is right. Now, let's go on. There was a top 5 lies Americans tell. The white lie is told by 27%. I've had to visit some nations of the world in which somebody will tell me, I'm coming to see you. You call again, say, I'll see you. And until I arrive in Nigeria. Then there is 18% will lie by omission. And 16% lie to themselves. And 15% lie in appearance. You look at the lady, she's so beautiful, he has lashes and everything. But you catch her in the morning and you're surprised. Then people lie in relationship, 5%. Does that not mean that every of us are liars? Let's go. Let integrity and uprightness was Solomon's. I gave David and Solomon. These are people who are cut across all religious body. He said, do not let loyalty and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the table of your heart. So you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and of people. So if you are a leader, you must bind faithfulness, bind loyalty in your heart. Now, integrity is not flattery, it's not manipulation, it is not deceit, it's not scheming, it's not controlling, it's not coercion, it's not lying, it's not harassment, it's not intimidation. People of integrity don't backbite or gossip, it's not coalition. The goal of real integrity is that you can be trusted. Now, when they looked at 54,000 managers and trying to find out what are the essential qualities of a good manager, the number one thing they found was integrity. Now, other things are important, like being visionary, which is number 4, and people focus, which is number 3. So let's think about it very closely about integrity. And I'm going to talk about it more in the other aspect of this talk. Let's go on. Where are you going? Then other things come around. Because for you to fulfill your vision, you must have values. For you to fulfill your vision, you must set goals and break them into parts. For you to fulfill your vision, you must have mission. For you to fulfill your visions, you must have strategy. So I believe that the first most important thing is your vision. Now, it's the end point, where you should be. It's the big picture. It's the finishing line. Let's go. The most pathetic thing, this Helen Keller was a woman who had all deficiencies in life. And she said the most pathetic person in the world is someone who has sight but has no vision. Now, all these things we are doing here doesn't mean anything if we do not, if we don't conceptualize a vision. And let me tell you, no matter how long it would take me or any of us to dream of a great country, let's keep dreaming about a vision. Because a vision that doesn't have obstacles is not a vision. A vision that suddenly succumbs to the environment is not a vision. A vision fights battle, but doesn't give ground. Lewis Carroll said, if you don't know where you are going, then any way, any road will take you there. Let's go. And Thomas Garley says, a man without going to all those 7 things in more leadership conference we had. I want to talk to you about how can we develop this greatness. And number 1, I mentioned here is, all right, let's go to number 1. Renew and reinvent your thinking. Everything starts from the way you think. Everything starts from the way your mind works. How do you think? How do you think? I was in the UK to speak in an Anglican church, which was 100% white, aristocratic white. And I was privileged to speak there because one of my colleagues, a professor of pathology, said I should come and preach in his church. I think the church I had was about over 1,000+ years old. And then they took me to the vestry for the meeting before they prayed. We prayed together and they said I come and speak. After speaking, they said they were so impressed. In fact, a woman said that they've never seen somebody shed tears in their church for over 1,000 years, something like that. That when I was speaking, people shed tears. Then one of the men came to me and said, you know what? I came to Nigeria. I'm a businessman. And I wanted to do some business for the government. But immediately I landed, the first thing I was told to do was that I should give a certain percentage. He said it was very strange to him. What do you mean by percentage? And he told me, and this is his word, the next day I took a flight and I left. That I just couldn't understand it. Now, several people will come and give a testimony at church. I said, look, I got a contract and I gave a contract to somebody and I got a big percentage out of it. So it is a state of your mind. Let's go on and look at more of it. So you have to discover who you are. What are your values? What is important to you? You have to embrace self-denial. Leadership is about self-denial. You ought to put others first. You must have a transformational thinking. You see, you must not be ego-driven. You must be proactive, not reactive. And you must have me time with yourself, in which you assess yourself properly. Look at yourself in the mirror. Let your mentors, your mentees, remove the covering and let people tell you who you are. You see, recently I've had time to think about my life. I've had time to ask myself, what are the presumptions I make in this life? The presumptions I make in this life. What are the prejudices I have? Why am I so blind? Why do I have a blind spot about who I am and only know what other people are doing? Why must I expect other people to greet me? Some time ago, I had some issues with certain of my colleagues. And I really felt that I have the right to get these things done. You have the right to tell me this. You have the right to tell me what you are doing because I'm the head, I'm everything. Then on further talk, I said, why must I claim right for somebody to tell me his life? Who am I? And I just said to myself, that is pure hubris, pride, ego. So even though the cultural norm or the work norm allows for some things to be done, but it is not a right. It's a privilege. And if I don't get it, well, said I'm good. Because I'm living in a democratic environment. So what am I saying? That to look at yourself, to look deeply at yourself. Somebody didn't greet me. Why must he greet you? Somebody doesn't respect me. Why must he respect you? Somebody's gossiping about me. He's not good. Yes, because you are in the limelight, you must be gossiped about. So that deep-seated thing to stop focusing on yourself and focusing on what people treat you, but to look deep inside you to find out whether your behavior, which you think is right, is constituting an obstacle to your growth. That's what leaders do every time. Leaders keep asking those questions about themselves so as to come back. And by doing so, they are reinventing, they are readjusting their life. I mean, recently I told somebody, you would have told me this. You know who I am? You would have told me this, or you can't go there and this. And the person got annoyed. I said, I was very benign. And then when I went to myself, why must I tell the person he must tell me this? Why must I tell the person he must tell me that? Do you get it? So a leader must come to accept the fact that he's not in a control business. He doesn't rule the world. He must be humble. He must accept that the world is not himself. And this idea of reinventing yourself and removing your prejudices and confronting your character inside you and dealing with your basic assumptions and presumptions and spending more time on yourself than others. That's what makes leaders great. Now, you must also develop a philosophy of leadership. What is your philosophy of leadership? What is your philosophy in life? You see, some time ago, I was invited to somewhere to speak, and I went with one or two cars. And then somebody told me, they called your visit to that city apostolic visit. You would have come with a large convoy. Then you will sit in the car and not come out till the time for you to be introduced. Well, that is philosophy. You see, many people, they gave the story of a very knowledgeable man, very rich, a king, who changed and dressed in rag. I went to a conference. Nobody was looking at him. Everybody neglected him. Then the man went back and changed and put on gold ring and gold this. Everybody was greeting him. Then when this one greeted him, he said, "You are greeting my wristwatch." And when they greet him, "You are greeting my garment." You see, a lot has a lot to do with the philosophy of greeting. One American secretary or so, one of the divisions in America, said that he was invited to a certain hotel while he was Secretary of State. Or said, not secretary, secretaries too. They gave him, they brought limousine to carry him. They took him when he got to the meeting, they gave him a coffee. People carried his thing on. All the time he was secretary. Then after he left the job, they now invited him again. Nobody to receive him. No coffee. Nobody to carry his log. I now say that people do not respect you because of who you are. They respect you because of your position. Several years ago, I saw a man who had a big position somewhere in an environment. The man was so powerful in that environment. And I passed by this man, and the man had a punctured tire. Everybody passed him. Nobody stopped. I was the one that stopped. And then the man told me, "You can see life." If I was there, that's how many people, if they are important, that's when they do their child's wedding, they do their, because they know that if they leave that position, nobody will come. So, a philosophy is the way you think. But research have found that by Jim Collins, that the great companies, their leaders are servant leadership. Greenfield was the one that had a whole thesis on servant leadership. They believe that in these great companies, when things go wrong, the leader says, "Look at the mirror and say, I am." When things go right, he says, "Look outside the window, those are the people that did it." When we used to travel to Ohio, my wife and I, we stay sometimes in Embassy Hotel. And when we are in Embassy Hotel having breakfast, the manager of Embassy Hotel, the manager of that particular facility, comes around to clean the place. Clean the place, carry plates and carry cups. I had to discuss with him at one point. I said, "I'm amazed." But to him, it's nothing important. There are several companies in America, before you become their head, you will first of all go through the rank of a 3-month probation to serve as a dish cleaner or as somebody that cleans the floor. To internalize in you that your position doesn't make you superior. Your position doesn't make you demand entitlement. Your position means that people just respect you to deliver. So it's not who you are. Now, institutional mindset, not individual mindset. Then the third thing is embrace your responsibilities. Now, in embracing your responsibility, somebody said that responsibility is your ability to respond. It's your ability to respond. You see, I want to tell you that whenever you go to any position and complain, just get out. Just get out of that position. I've had several positions in which things were not working. But I took time to think and to pray, should I be there? And when I decide to be there, I own the assets. I also own the liability. I own the reputation. I don't complain. Because why should I complain and still be a leader? And so what does that mean? See yourself as the debtor. Give it all it takes. No entitlement mentality. No excuses. No excuses. Go the extra mile. Exceed expectations. Engage all your faculties. Results speak. I like this statement by Jesus Christ. It says, believe me. Then he now stopped. He said, believe me for my work's sake. At one point, he says, look at John. He said, John had a testimony of me. He said, not that. I respect the testimony of man. Can you imagine that? Works speak. You see, when we were about to start the church 25 years ago, I wasn't interested in starting a church. I have volumes already in my hand, physician, researcher, doctor, all this. But I felt really concerned that God wants me to start a church that will reach out to young people in this city. And I remember one day when I was praying and sitting in a conference, and the Lord told me, build a church in Ife. I was so annoyed. Then I heard a voice that told me it was Mother Teresa that lifted up Calcutta. It was Jesus that lifted up Nazareth. It was Mahatma Gandhi that helped abolition in India. He said, build a church and keep quiet. You don't need to tell people that you are called. The taste of what? Is what? In his eating. When a leader analyzes, he draws statistics. He has a big portfolio. All he will do. And then in 4 years, he come to you and say, the allocation has dropped. He comes to you and tell you that the exchange rate is not there. He comes to you and say, look, it's not there. Then what I do? Because leaders look at the risk-benefit effect. They do deep thinking. They look at, tell me the worst that would ever happen. There's an explosion. Recently, I was talking to our head of department. And the head of department was talking about the many things that is happening to the medical profession. There is a brain, in quote, drains. I don't believe in brain drain. I believe in brain circulation because we're a world global village. Then I told her, have you ever read Harry Truman? I said, have you ever read about Roosevelt, the Great Deal? I said, these were leaders in crisis. And that's what made them great. I said, crisis situation brings the best of leaders. Difficult condition tells us the stuff of which you are made. Jesus Christ never came to the world and complained about Nazareth and the depth of sinners. He even said he did not come for saints. He came for sinners. He came for harlots. He came for the underdog. He came from the neglected. And so leaders are there not to accentuate, but to actionize. Winston Churchill said, the price of greatness is what? Responsibility. Let's go. Jesus said, I must do the work of you who have sent me while it is day and finish the work. Shakespeare says, an actor leaves the stage when the ovation is what? Highest. Now, the next thing is good relational skills. Now, the ability to say please and thank you alone, you can tell the character of a leader. Just please and thank you. You know, in medicine, I always teach my students that I don't want to know your skill in the hard stuff of medicine. Ability to examine, ability to teach, ability to do research. I want to see you excel in the soft skill of medicine. How do you care for your students? I mean, for your students to fail, if you're head of department, you failed. When I started in medical school, it was always a pride to say this number of people failed. My first few years as a head of department, I drew the normal distribution curve. I said majority of people should pass, and it's only the fringes. The fringes who are very good or the decent. So, in a sense, a leader should fix the problem. Why should an intelligent student I don't know what it is now. Those who do medicine in my own time are the best of the best. And it's the best of the best that go to postgraduate training. Why should they come under you to teach them with a pedagogy kind of teacher who wants to teach them, and then you make these students dumb? Why can't you make them better? Or why can't you at least leave them for what they are? So it's not a glory to see people fail. 100% is not abnormality. It should be the normal. Now, relational skills, how you relate to people. How you relate to people. You know? Do you have an all-inclusive thinking? Or you just have me thinking? So, you have to empower people. You have to encourage the human soul. Somebody said encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. You have to treat people empathetically. Walk in their shoes. You have to love them enthusiastically. That's what the leader is. A leader is not always going there to see what people are doing wrong, but he should also spot them doing right. Have endurance. I can tell you, if there's anything I've learned for being a pastor for 25 years, is that I should get to the breaking point and don't break. I've had people say things about me that I don't even know anything about it. I've seen people gossip about things I don't even know anything about. I've preached sermons to bless people and somebody said that I was attacking them. And so if I were to look at the congregation, I would never have continued as a pastor. But Jeremiah advised me, look not at their faces. A great leader should have emotional intelligence. And this was something by Daniel Goldman. Let's go on. He defined emotional intelligence as you understand and manage your emotion in a positive way, to relieve stress, to communicate effectively, to empathize with others, and overcome challenges. Let's look at it. Now, there are about five components of emotional intelligence. But I tell you, the most important to me, one of the most important I found out is self-awareness. A leader must sit down and stop. Before you open your mouth, I tell my medical students, put your brain on gel. Before you say something, I can now realize that you can literally I can literally come on Sunday morning and say, look, if you want to be happy, just run. And somebody will take it literally. Somebody will take it literally. And so a leader must be self-aware. If I say this, should I say this? You see, being blinded to that yourself and not empathetically listening to the other person is what could be the dead point of leaders. Every now and then I'm trying to be self-aware. You know? Before I say, why didn't I see you? I stop. Why should I say, why didn't I see you? Before I say to somebody, please, my birthday is this. Why didn't you send gift? I had to stop. Did I give him gift? Why must he give me gift? So before I could be careless, but now I try to pause. And see, the more people are intimate with you, especially in your family setting, you must be self-aware. Because what you think is a normal joke may be repeated 10 years against you. Then there is also self-regulation. On the basis of your self-awareness, then you regulate yourself. I can't just say this. I just can't say this. Recently, we're having a prayer meeting. We have it every week. And there's this someone in our prayer meeting, whenever the person is praying, and sometimes, usually the person prays for very long. So I just said to myself, now that this person is about to pray, I must get a spare tire. But I couldn't say it, because if I say it, you discourage the person. But actually, I needed a spare tire, because by the time you finish praying, one tire would have burst. Then you look at motivation. If there be a hurricane in the land, a great leader must learn resilience. Now let's look at some of the research that has been done. All right, resilience means grit and perseverance, firmness of character, indomitable spirit. Now, there's a woman called Angela Duckwood, and he did a research among the Chicago public schools. And I know Chicago is a place for violence and things like that. And then I found out that the students who will succeed and finish well are those who have what they call grit, and that's perseverance, that's resilience. And now she has what they call a grit scale. That by doing this grit scale, we can tell whether you will end well or you will not. No leader can ever be a leader who does not have grit. John F. Kennedy says the word crisis, if it is written in China and Chinese language, if you look at one side, it means obstacles and problem. But if you read it from behind, it looks as opportunity. So embedded in every crisis is an obstacle and an opportunity, depending on what you are. Oh, I married this my husband because he's tough. He doesn't make me succeed. I married this my husband because he makes me stronger. He teaches me to work harder, and I want to meet up the talent. I married this my wife because he's always looking at my fault. Yes, I married this my wife because he's trying to lead me to the path of perfection. I came to this school and the teacher doesn't like me. Yes, I came to this school, he doesn't like me because I'm not good enough. And so I'm forced to live on a higher standard. Grit is so essential. Sometimes people tell me, say, how are you able to combine all this, your work? And the problem is God-given grit. I come to the breaking point and I don't break. The first boss we bought in this church, I named it Unbreakable Spirit. Simply because I knew the journey required perseverance. You see, leaders have to have constancy of purpose. You have to run till your vision comes to the end. You must be committed to the long haul. You see, I've only told myself DNF, did not finish. Every time you are called to do something, sometimes when I tell people who leave one church to the other, oh, God has called me and this, I don't know that, I'm not against that. But the question comes is, even your decision to leave a particular place must be based on common sense and wisdom. You can't just be in a place and build a place, and the time you were supposed to be recognized, you just run away. What can you start? No matter how, even if all the angels in the world are with you, that destroys the background that built you up. Two days ago, we had a meeting, and Archbishop Idahosa, Madam Idahosa, spoke to all of us. She sent a video about myself. I got to know Archbishop Idahosa in 1969 in the Forestry Road in Benin, where they were using for a police station. They have still remained my father and mother. I don't go to the church, but I can't break that relationship. I just cannot. It's too risky to destroy your past because you want to reinvent your future. I was talking to a person like Bovere. I knew him in 1969. You see, when you do not have a historical memory, you will lose the prophetic sense. Now, so you must finish last will always be better than did not finish, which always trumps did not smart. Let's go on. Leaders must have a never give up spirit. Leaders, many of man's failure are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. So they say a leader starts from the scratch and never stops scratching. This is the statement by Paul. He said, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. For you know your labor is not in vain. You see, do you know I know a good man? Ask him, where are the friends you knew 30 years ago? Because if a person is not good, he will manipulate his friendship. Everybody is your friend when you have something to offer. But a great friend is a person when you have nothing to do. I used to have a friend in UK, in the part of UK. Anytime I travel, in those days, now he lives in a house on his own. He used to stay in a small room. Now, well, sometimes when I travel on some offer and the other one. And the tendency for me was to stay in a hotel, but I go and stay with my friend in that small room. And sometimes we sleep on the same bed. And sometimes I sleep on the floor. Because whenever I'm with my friend, he reminds me of whom I am. One day we went to a certain restaurant. And I was just talking. He said, look, I hope you are not going to be one of those kind of pastors who believe you are entitled to things. Better relax now, take food, behave like a normal person before the enemy calls you to move. It's my friend that will tell me. But the friends I know now, they say, man of God, man of God. And that's one of the false beliefs that leads to a man's destruction. One day I asked my friend, those days, though it has improved, I said, what do you see in me? He said, you don't pray enough. I thought I was praying too much. So my friend now told me, I don't pray enough. He knows. So when I wake up and I say, you don't pray enough. That for your calling, you need to pray more. When you run for those who will mold you, because you just want to establish yourself, you miss it. Paul said, none of these things move me. I don't count my life dear to me. Let's go on. Now, this is Winston Churchill's statement. He said, never, never giving, in nothing great or small, large or petty, never giving except to conviction of honor and good sense, never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Don't see the obstacles, see the opportunities. Don't see the setbacks, see the stepping stone. Don't perceive obstacles as merely a detour to your final goal. Have the conviction to achieve. Hope is not a plan. There will always be obstacles along the way. Focus on what you can. We can't always control events, but we can control our attitude. Somebody was saying that the things that happen to you are 20% of what people do to you, and 80% of how you react to what people did to you. Rule yourself. I'm going to rush through because of our time. Number 6, go on. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. You see, I find it difficult sometimes to control my temperament in the past. I've not reached there. And I asked the Lord for one simple formula to control my temperament. He said, keep your mouth shut. I'm practicing it now. And so when you see me, I don't greet you very often. I just make my this and keep my mouth shut. Because I know when I keep my mouth shut, and I know I cannot pray with God with bitterness, I would endure things. You see a lot, you don't have to comment. You don't have to comment. You don't have to tell people what people have done to you. Just stay quiet. If somebody said this to you, don't worry. Just keep your mouth shut. And to me, I learned it from James 3. If a man, or James 1 said, if a man does not bridle his tongue, his religion, his word, is vain. And that the road to perfection is your tongue. Somebody said that speech may be silver, but speechlessness is gold. And the Bible says, whosoever opens his mouth widely shall have calamity. Now let's go on. So have a self-awareness. Regular habits of discipline. I mean, you want to go for this sex. You want to go to this party. Just ask yourself, what is the end point? I know that the more enticed a bait is, the greater the hook. I know the sweeter the journey to temptation is, the bitter the end. I know when people give you trophies of what is nice, with immediate gratification, is for complete destruction. Keep fit. Leaders cannot but keep fit. Exercise is a ritual. Exercise is a calling. Exercise is a command. Leaders need to have rest. In the Old Testament, if you don't do the Sabbath day, you are killed. You are stoned to death. Leaders must keep fit. You don't slush when you sit down. You don't limp like this. You just have to be fit. You don't fit in the work you do. You are intentionally fit. Have self-regulation. Regulate yourself. Don't let somebody tell you what you are doing is wrong. You know, say no to lower principles. And then recalibrate yourself often by taking feedback. Then number 6, 7, commit yourself to reading. When a man says he wants to lead me, I first of all go to his library. 90% of those who are aspiring to leadership in Nigeria, they don't have a library. If they have, it's for decoration. Many times in our own local church here, which are based on many intellectuals, we have PhDs, so many PhDs in almost all fields. And I ask them, have you read John Boyan? They don't know it. How many of you have read Shakespeare's book, Julius Caesar? They don't know it. Even when I ask some people about Chief Obafemi Awolowo, they don't know it. But if I ask about one of the social media stars, Nollywood and so, they know it. And people know that one thing that is sinking this generation is the cell phone. One thing that is totally destroying our mentality is the social media. And people say, as a rule, never open your WhatsApp or Instagram before 10 in the morning. And never touch it in the night. And never sleep with phone in your bed. That is very destructive. How can you sleep with phone in your bed? Is it your wife or your husband? Commit to your reading. Learners give themselves to continuous learning through reading. They have a growth mentality. Now, leaders are committed to growth. They always want to grow. Leaders have what they call a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Years ago, there was this woman, Carol Dweck. She's a leading psychologist at Stanford University. And she defined two categories of people: the fixed mental and the growth mentality. People who are fixed, they tell you, this is how my mother did it. My father, they don't change. They don't know that criticism or critic things are to make you better. So, but those with a growth mindset, they're always changing. They're always changing. My first visit to America, although I was still a young resident then, but I was preaching. And then I went into this table in New York. You know, they brought us with a big limousine. I went to this table. I was unmarried then. Went to this dinner. And then I finished speaking, I said, oh, well, that's a great message. That's great talk. He said, but please, next time, a little perfume will make you better. Because I didn't know how my armpit was thinking. And to me, I used to feel that put on the perfume was a sin against, not the Holy Ghost, but maybe lesser angels. And the man now said, look, my friend, you don't need to put on a loud perfume. Just a roll-on. If not for your sake, but for those who are breathing the air around you. No, let's go. Please go back. No, let's go back to where we started from. So a fixed mindset believes intelligence and talent are not static. You need to grow. It was one of the people in this our church that told me that I should not use the same socks every day. I used to think that all you need to do, you can use one socks for 7 days. Well, can I just dust it like that and put it in here? I wear it. He says, it's not right. It was 2, 3 people that met me one time and told me, sir, don't use the same shirt for 2 days. Some people don't put on shirt. It doesn't matter, it's only shirt. And you don't need to go and have all the money in the world to buy 7 or 5 shirts in which you change, because it gives you good ventilation, it gives you fresh air, it makes you look better. I used to carry a very big hair, and anytime I tell my children now to cut their hair, they say, you saw your hair when you were young. But then when I looked at all the great men, I found out that they have low cut and they have no beards. With special apology to my friend. It's not that having beards is bad, but I just knew that to be in the league, I just have to be either trim my beards or have none. So what I'm saying is a matter of growth. I could just be defending it. Doesn't tell my from now on, you don't ever see me with agbada. Let the chiefs wear it. Let the laughers wear it. But let my simple pets wear my trousers and my shirt. Warren Buffett say he reads 500 pages a day. If you make a rule of reading only 1 hour in a day, you have read about nothing like 20 books in a year. Bill Gates reads 50 books in a year. How can you compare yourself with that kind of a person? Elon Musk says he first learned about rockets by reading books. Go on. Winston Churchill, after work, he returns to study and read an hour before bed. Thomas Edison, who had only 3 months of education, formal education, he said to read what? 30,000 books, had 30,000 books in his home. And my mentor, Spurgeon, has 16,000 books in his home. And he has read all of them. Why would you not have mental problem if you don't read? Why would you not be fighting? You notice that when people don't read, it's when they make the largest noise. They shout, they complain. When you read and write, you see, any problem you have, put it in writing, and you won't have any time to talk. Go on. George Washington has a library of 900 books and a total of 1200 titles. Abraham Lincoln, the greatest American president, 6th American president, was self-taught. He read all kinds of things. Go on. Paul said, study to show yourself what? Approved. Nowadays, people do pray to show yourself approved. Shout to show yourself approved. Wear suits to show yourself approved. Timothy says, when Paul was about to die, he says, when you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus, our trials, and my scrolls, especially the parchments. Especially the parchments. You can always know whether the person is read by the latitude, depth, height of his wisdom. Release the troops. We're almost coming to an end. Great leaders mobilize people. They have teams. You don't become a leader when you are alone. Sometimes I tell some of our women, you see a woman who is a great CEO, she wants to cook, she wants to go to market, she wants to clean the floor. So you will die at this rate. The essential things you must do. The non-essentials that is not good, delegate them. Mobilize people around you who will help you. Man is a social being. Let's God allowed us to live in a desert island. And no leader can succeed without mobilizing the troop. Mobilizing people around you. No person will make a great business who wants to do it all by himself and get the credit. Let's go on. If you want to do a few small things right, do them yourself. But you want to do great things and make a big impact, learn to delegate. Invest in people. Build people up. Train them. Own an orphan. Own a student. Visit someone. Time will not allow me to tell stories of large number of students that I've taught in my life who, wherever they find me, they are there for me. Money kept in the bank is good. It hardly grows, it depreciates. But many invested in life continue to grow all your lifetime. Go on. Run with a vision. Let's go on. Now, what is a vision? We talked about that. You must run with the vision. Whatsoever as a leader you are called, run with the vision. Move on. Now, let's go. Don't go to all this. Let's move. All right. Sorry. A blind man's world is bounded by the limits of his touch. An ignorant man's world by the limits of his knowledge. A great man's world by the limits of his vision. Let's go. Visions have clarity. They are concise. They are consuming. They are challenging. They are in contest. They are commitment. You cannot be too old for vision. The day before you die, still nurture a vision. You see, one thing is that your life will never be useless when there is something you are living for. I'm always preoccupied. I don't sit down and say, what can I do? Because there's a lot to do. I know a man called Reverend Elthing. He was a great man of God. And this man, in his old age, was still productive. Why? He was always thinking. He was not preparing for grave. You see somebody who is 60. He said, well, I'm getting old. What is getting old? I've seen people of 80, 90, still working in restaurants in US. So working in the farm. Here, the age is in the mentality. It's not chronological age. People age when they are 20, and people are still 20 when they are 90. Because you want to do something. Bata says, I was put on the face of this earth to shew mankind. Let's go on. Number 10, and that's the last, receive from above. I always believe that it's only God, power belongs to God. And a leader must have a source of spiritual connection to God. Almost every religion believes in it, even those who do not believe in a living God, or who doesn't believe in an actual God, who just believe that God is a sensation or something. Everybody believes that he must connect with something bigger than him, higher than him. And to me, that is the greatest source of my strength. Every morning I'm up, and I spend 2-3 hours in prayer, in thinking, and in writing. I can't explain how many things I've jotted out. I ask questions, I inquire of God. And those little periods have saved my leadership. In fact, it has saved my life. You must have an inner carcass. You must have a spiritual club of you and God that meets regularly. You must be in the secret place of the Most High. And I put it as power. When you speak to God, he gives you power. He opens to you opportunity. But more importantly, he gives you wisdom. Wisdom, I almost say that when God, the Bible says God is love, I also believe that God is wisdom. He also gives you energy. And at the same time, he is a resident God. You have a supreme counselor whom you can always tap on his wisdom. Now, there are 2 quotations I want to give on that. Unfortunately, it's not here. No man can receive anything unless it's been given to him what? From above. Paul said, you see me working hard, you see me striving. Yes, I strive, but it is not me that strives, but the power of God in me. Jesus Christ, who is God, says, I can do nothing on my own. So when a leader only reads the Bible because he wants to give a sermon, when the leader only prays because he wants a revival, when the leader only goes to church because he wants to get an attention, then that's no leader. Communion with God is the survival of the human soul. Cut it off, you are just nothing. Be embedded in it, nothing in this world can move you. At the end of the day, if we follow the principles, these are certain things that will happen to a leader. First of all, he will be principle-centered. Now, having been a leader, a local church leader for several years, I don't care now about how talented a person is. I don't care about how spiritually anointed you are. I want to ask, do you have principles? That's it. Do you have principles? Can I depend on you? Do you lie? Can you be trusted? That is it. If you don't have principles, forget it. Recently, I was talking to a person who is very, very good in many things, but he lies a lot. You give him things to do, he doesn't do. So I had to call him and say, my friend, no matter what anointing you have, deal with this basic one. Be true. Be firm. We are not saying you should be perfect, but come across as a trusted person. Don't let people double check everything you have said because they don't know who you are. And sooner or later, that character will pull you down. Then you must be passionate, enthusiastic. Nobody likes a low energy person. Nobody likes someone who does things sluggishly. You must be passionate. Don't do too many things, but do one thing with an extraordinary strength. Then you must have the perception, the big picture. Don't see only today, see tomorrow. See next tomorrow. When we were starting the church 25 years ago, I dreamt and I said, one day, some of the young undergraduates here with me will marry their daughters and sons in this church. And it all happened. So build for eternity. Don't build for today. Build something big. We have a diagnosis center. I'm a physician, I don't need to see it. I've never been there once. The head of the diagnosis center is Olajibo. I've never even taken a blood pressure from him. Though I do my blood pressure. But then we are trying to throw a seed that will mean a lot. Leadership is not meism, it's otherism. It's other people. You don't say, one time I was trying to, an office somewhere in campus when I had, and I was going to put fine tiles. I was going to say, why do you put fine tiles? Just put carpet. In your house, you can put tiles. I said, I said, that's not wise. How can I, for 3 years, an office, I will come every day. Don't you know that if I put the wrong thing there, I could die in those 3 years? I know a lot of people who live in campus. For those of us who are watching us, campus is any campus. Some of us stay in quarters. Nowadays, in most part of the world, people are not allowed to stay in quarters. You live in your own. And you see somebody say, no, don't decorate the place very well. It's not your house. And then they build mansions in town. And they don't know that disease, if I had to use a big word now, it's messing, Legionella pneumophila, can gather somewhere and kill you of pneumonia while you are still in that campus. I said, no, it's not, I want to keep where's your money? Nobody wants any money. Money is for circulation and distribution. You know, you're not taking care of your health. You're not painting the walls. You're not dressing the place nice. So how can you be dreaming of a house you will stay in retirement when you are not sure of your retirement? Some day ago, somebody was telling me, which party do you belong to? Do you belong to the obedient party? Or you belong to Atiku? Or you belong to Tinubu, Muslim identity? I said, look, let me see tomorrow first. That I'm not even sure there will be election. I'm not even sure. I'm not saying I prophesy. I'm not dreaming. I'm not even sure. So what am I going to begin to build for the rainy day when it's raining now and I'm not covered? Then preparedness. Leaders must be prepared. Always prepare yourself for the next assignment. Then people center. You can't be a leader when you don't love people. You can't be a leader when you complain about people. You can't be a leader when you don't attract people to yourself, not by bribing them, but you're being good to them. You're being kind to them. You're being lovely to them. You can't. You just have to be. Then persistence. Then that can lead to productivity and problem solving. Now, there are 3 books that I'm releasing tomorrow. One of them is Deep-Seated Success and Fulfillment. The other one is the Essentials of Leadership. This one has been tried. I've spoken this sermon somewhere outside this country, and we have tried it and proved it. And then this is time management. The one I've done several works on time management, and one of them is sold out. One of them was prefaced by the vice president of the country. So I want you to be there tomorrow or join us on Sunday, or you can tell us how you get it. We don't know how much it will cost. The cost price is still within the price. Thank you. Leadership is progressive. Welcome to the leadership journey. I want to say before you clap, leadership is not the one who is in front. A housewife can be a good leader. A captain of the class can be a good leader. You know, a mother can be a good leader. Leader is responsibility, from small matters to big matters. Anywhere in the world, leadership is not just an aspiration. It's goodness in a little thing that makes you suitable for a great thing. You heard that I was a consultant to Omron in writing a respiratory module, in which I was invited to Netherlands to write a module and take lectures. How did it happen? I was giving a lecture simple lecture somewhere, and I sat down. And then somebody came behind me and touched me and said, please, I belong to this company from the Netherlands, and we are looking for a physician in the world, a chest physician in the world, who will write a module for us. Would you like to be? I said, yes, I will. Then I said, look, it's very competitive. We've shortlisted one professor from Thailand. I said, okay, when the time comes. And then one day they had a meeting in Sheraton Hotel. And one of the people came from the Netherlands. I didn't even know he was going to be there. I treated him tenderly. I treated him well. I said, well, as he was going, I said, please don't forget, I'm interested in being that kind of a person. Within a few months, they called me and they gave me that job. My first speech in the world to a large audience, big audience, very big audience in UI, happened when I was a part 2 or part 3 student. I was invited to the birthday party of one of my colleagues, and they said I should preach. And I preached as if I was speaking in Medicine Square Garden. And then there was one of the senior students who were there, and he said, after the meeting, he said, please, we are having a big meetings in UI. And your speech is so good, can you be our guest speaker? I said, I have just come to the university. He said, no, we don't care, you must speak there. Let me tell you, less is small, little is great. The beginning determines the end. Thank you very much.
Can we keep on clapping? Let's clap for our pastor. Can we keep on clapping? If you have gained something today, if you have something that you are taking away with you, I want you to keep clapping for our pastor. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Can we please have our seats? Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. And I know we all have something to take away. Leadership is influence. Leadership is not aspiration. Leadership is responsibility, and it is being able to run with that responsibility. So I want us to clap our hands again for our pastor, our mentor, and our coach. Thank you very much, sir. So very shortly, we will go on a short tea break. We are going to go on a short tea break, and we promise that we are going to be brief about it, but the ushers are going to guide us on the order in which we are to go. So please, let's just have our seat and allow the ushers to direct us. And please, we don't want anybody to go away. You know, the best are reserved for the last. So please don't go away, because we still have different talks. We still have different presentations that are going to be useful for us here. The representative of the Bank of Industry, they are here to present to us. You know, leadership, we need finances. So if you are here, you are youth, you are here, you are leaders in one position or another, you are here, you are a businessman, a businesswoman. So please don't go away. They are going to tell us. They are coming up shortly after the break to tell us different opportunities on ways that we can get loans or that we can get finances to support ourselves at whatever leadership capacity or business we are doing. And also, after that, we are going to have a very important talk on transformational leadership in institutional and political settings by... The break is going to be 15 minutes, please. So it's short, don't go away. And we said after the talk by the Bank of Industry, we are going to have another great presentation by a two-time Vice Chancellor, the former Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo. And the talk is going to be on transformational leadership in institutional and political settings. He's ready for us, so please don't go away. Ushers, are we ready to direct people? So please, let's sit down and wait for their direction so that we can have it. Thank you.
Transcendentally relevant after many decades of existence. According to Charles Darwin, it is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. This ability to reinvent has kept some companies and institutions alive for the past 25 to 100 years and more. Let us consider some of these companies. First, J.C. Penney. Established in 1902 by James Cash Penney, J.C. Penney reflected the ethics of the Golden Rule. The company has survived over 100 years and has seen various leadership transitions. In 1913, the year it was incorporated, the company introduced the body of doctrine to a convention of 36 managers of J.C. Penney stores, asking each of them to see their working life in light of 4 guiding principles. 1. Honor. 2. Confidence. 3. Service. And 4. Cooperation. Number 2. Correct Craft. This company was established in 1925 by Walt C. Mellon, with a faith-based culture that centers on philanthropy and building up its international community. Its mission stated is building boats to the glory of God. The end goal of each sale is to make life better for its clients, employees, and everyone. When the United States Army during the World War II asked Correct Crafts to build assault boats 7 days a week, the company drew the line at 6 days, risking the biggest contract they had ever been offered. They faced down the Army and even delivered the boats before the deadline, ultimately helping the United States to win the war. According to the National Geographic, it was described as the miracle production. Number 3, Mary Kay. Mary Kay is a global cosmetic brand founded by Mary Ash Kay in 1963. One of the major motives for establishing the makeup and cosmetic business was to give other women the opportunity she had been denied throughout her life. In her autobiography, Mary Kay attributes her successful life to having the right perspective, which is God first, family second, and career third. She believes that her partnership with God brought her brand to limelight. Everyone loves to be treated with some degree of respect and dignity. Hence, one major secret of success in any organization is to treat all teammates, regardless of their role, with respect, honor, and integrity. The secret of Mary Kay's success could be summed up in 4.
Thank you.